everyone, Misha B. Barkin here. So Twitter. Yeah! It goes without saying, but there's been a ton of recent controversy involving our friendly blue bird, so much so that a lot of furries and artists have been jumping ship to other sites, as Twitter's future continues to look more and more grim. Due to this, a few other Twitter competitors have been popping up for a few months now that people have been moving to. Today I'd like to talk about 3 of these alternatives, those being Mastodon, Threads, and Bluesky, and go over some of the pros and cons of each of those sites so those who are looking to jump ship or are just curious about those sites will be better informed. But how did we get here? What caused a once dominant social media space that nearly everyone used to start losing users by the thousand? It goes without saying that Twitter was one of the main hubs for furries, so how did things go so wrong? Well, let's talk about that, shall we? Twitter was created by Jack Dorsey, Noah Glass, Biz Stone, and Evan Williams in March 2006 and launched in July of that year. Much like Facebook, although it started out slow, it quickly became one of the 2 dominant forces in switching to a more social media-oriented internet, rather than just blogs and forums. MySpace, my love, how we took you for granted. I actually wasn't allowed to use MySpace when I was a kid, but I heard it was good back then, so yeah, I'll take their word for it. Twitter since then only continued to grow and became a hub for a bunch of different groups and people, from the common folk to big celebrities. Sports, politics, furries, anime fans, basically any group you could think of had a little corner of Twitter they could call home. It also goes without saying that Twitter was a space for discussions of politics and where news spread faster than anything we'd seen before. People use Twitter all the time to spread news and awareness of protests, natural disasters, unnatural disasters, and other things of the like. To dial it back a bit, however, it was also a main hub for artists, both in and out of furry, to grow an audience and share their art with the world, and to gain a following and get customers through commissions and such. This especially became so after Tumblr banned all NSFW content, and DeviantArt started accepting and promoting AI-generated images to their front page. After this, most artists shuffled onto Twitter, where you could post all of the people-generated c***s you want. Now, Twitter of course has its issues, with the rampant spread of misinformation being a big one. Information spreads like wildfire, and unfortunately misinformation spreads just as fast. This is prevalent in the furry community, as drama is really popular here, so people tend to spread rumors and retweet allegations and such without fact-checking or looking into the things in the slightest. I've seen countless call-out posts where the evidence is literally just bro, trust me. That being said, as a whole it was a good platform for many artists and creators to make meaningful connections and to grow an audience, as well as create close bonds with many new friends across the globe. Twitter definitely wasn't perfect, but I think most of us can attest it was the best we had for the longest while. Until fall of 2022. In October of 2022, Elon Musk, formerly regarded as one of the bright minds of the future but now known as the internet's communal punching bag, purchased Twitter to the tune of $44 billion. Now, there had been talks and discussions about him buying the site since the beginning of that year, and I personally thought it was just another shitty attempt at him trying to be funny. Yeah. God damn it. We all watched cautiously when the purchase finalized, and a lot of us were like, well, it won't be that bad, will it? And to our credit, for a while it wasn't. Things for the most part seemed okay on the social media side of things, but in the actual office, Musk almost immediately fired the top 3 Twitter executives, then cut the staff almost in half. Sure, that won't cause any issues, right? The first thing people began to notice was the app's less than stellar performance, as issues began arising, such as laggy feeds, media not playing, and other things. I'm only gonna mention it once, but just know that with every single one of these future updates, the app had like a day or 2 of everything just being broken. I can only assume it was because Musk was in the back just chewing on all of the wires, but what do I know? He also started letting notable stains to society back on the platform, such as Ian Miles and Donald Trump, so that was fun. The first major thing he did was really push Twitter Blue, which had been introduced by Jack, but not really built upon. For a measly $8 a month, you could let your friends know that you decided to shell out your hard-earned money to a fucking billionaire. One of the absolute funniest perks Musk added to this was the ability to get a blue checkmark when you got blue. Now, some of you keen folks will remember that the old verification badge was also a blue checkmark. This immediately caused problems. The most notorious moment came from someone making a parody account of Eli Lilly, an insulin manufacturer, then stating that as of that day, the insulin prices would be free for everybody. This fucking tanked Eli Lilly's stock prices and quickly made most people realize they could just make a new account, pay $8, then make a mock account of a famous person or company and say something so unbelievably out of pocket. Now, of course, things have been put in place to prevent this since then, such as verified accounts now being gold instead of blue, but still, it was fun while it lasted. The second major change was an alteration to the algorithm, where people who purchased blue would be promoted to the top of the replies. If you've used Twitter anytime in the last few months, you know how much of an absolute train wreck this has been. In order to find someone with half a brain, you have to sift through a sea of the most brain-dead, Elon toe-sucking crypto bros you've ever seen in your entire life. Seriously, and I mean this with my whole chest, I haven't seen replies so goddamn void of a single brain cell in my life, and now I see them daily in anyone's replies. This almost wouldn't be an issue if the people buying Twitter Blue weren't the worst people imaginable. And God forbid you're a trans person just posting about your day, the top replies are almost always blatant transphobia, even if the post has nothing to do with trans topics. The algorithm change also affected what would be shown on the recently added For You page. Since most artists have a moral compass and don't want to give money to such an awful person, they unfortunately suffered by having their posts and such get less traction, as the post would almost never show up on the For You page. What does always show up, however, is people arguing about trans and gay people deserving the right to exist. Yeah, that's absolutely what I want to see on my favorite app, people saying that myself and my trans friends shouldn't have equality. Lovely. The nail in the coffin for many, however, is when Musk announced that he was going to change the name of Twitter. Apparently this moron has been trying to do this since 1999 with a small little company you may have heard called PayPal. They bought him out shortly after when he tried that stunt then, but now there's no one who can tell Musk that his idea is dumb, as he'll just fire them on the spot. And I can't stress this enough. This is the dumbest change of all. Twitter, tweet, retweet, all of those are some of the most recognizable terms on the internet today. Like, you can't even dream of that level of recognition in any startup. And he traded that for a fucking letter, dude. A letter. How do you fumble the bag that bad? This has kind of become the final straw for many, myself included. It was a sign that Twitter as we knew it is dead, and the platform will only continue to develop into an alt-right misinformation hellhole, where the most hateful, bigoted people on the site get to have their insults and comments prioritized because they gave a person with unfathomable amounts of money $8. It was no longer the space where information and art could be shared, and became the place where hatred is pushed to everyone's For You page, front and center. The algorithm hurt artists, the comments hurt anyone who's not a straight white male, so why stay? And so people left. But where was there to go? As stated before, there were 3 new main Twitter competitors people jumped to, those being Mastodon, Threads, and Bluesky. So let's talk about those. First up is Mastodon, and admittedly I didn't use this one much as I wasn't a big fan of it. Basically, you'd make an account under one of the many instances, basically a micro Twitter based on a hobby or thing you liked, and boom, you were in. Now when I tried to use it at first, it felt like you were trapped in a box of your own instance and couldn't really branch out and interact with others. I must be getting old because the whole instance thing just really confused and overwhelmed me when I tried to use it. I didn't know what instance to use, what instance other people were using, and whether or not I could even interact with people outside of my instance. Also, each instance having their own code of conduct could make things really confusing, as things that were allowed on one instance could be banned from another. That being said, I think they've really fixed this, so now it's much easier to interact with other instances and see other content, so if you're looking to use Mastodon today, it's a lot more seamless. If anybody who currently uses Mastodon would like to give their 2 cents on the site, that would be really appreciated. I have more experience using the next 2 apps, but Mastodon is easily the one I use the least. Next up is Threads, and this one seemed to have the best shot at being a competitor, so much so that Elon actually threatened to sue Zuckerberg for copying Twitter, and then I guess they were supposed to fight. But I guess Elon needed surgery or some shit. And Zuck said the fight isn't happening because he takes fighting as a serious sport, and Musk was just dicking around, and somehow Musk took this as a win in his book. Anyway, not the point. What is the point is how many users the app had right off the bat. The app hit over 10 million users in the first 5 days, surpassing the previous record set by ChatGPT. Part of that was just because of how easy it was to sign up for it. If you had an Instagram, which honestly almost all furries have one, let's be honest, your new Threads account was basically already set up. All you had to do was agree to make a Threads, double check the info, and boom, you're in, baby. Now I had high hopes for Threads at first, and layout-wise, the app was really good. That being said, it does have its negatives, one of which is the lack of a following page. The following page is kind of mashed in with the For You page, so your friends' posts were sometimes lost in the sea of other content. And by other content, I mean brands. Yeah, another big thread killer was the fact that all of the brands and popular people or celebrities were there day one with their generic quote-unquote funny, ooh-woo, relatable posts. And for a while, that was all that Threads would show you, man. I don't log on to social media to see Burger King's shitty attempt at comedy. I want to see Mr. Wolf's massive, throbbing personality. You thought I was gonna say something else, huh? Jokes aside though, another thing hurting Threads was the fact that NSFW isn't allowed on there. Now this isn't a deal breaker for some, but for others in the furry community, the NSFW side of things is part of it for them. So to try and move on to a different site where that isn't an option, well, that may not vibe with some. Threads has a lot of potential to succeed, and I think the addition of a following feed, as well as greatly diminishing the amount of brand posts that show up on your feeds would help immensely. Allowing NSFW would also help, although the app not having it doesn't completely kill it. That being said, Threads doesn't really appear to be listening to the users, as we've been saying all of this from the very start. Lastly is Bluesky, my personal favorite of the 3. I switched to posting most of my silly little thoughts onto Bluesky over Twitter. Now the immediate glaring issue with Bluesky, of course, is the need for an invite code, but rest assured this isn't a permanent thing. They're doing this in the beginning to test app limitations and release various updates and fixes to be more ready for when the app fully releases. Bluesky feels the most like classic Twitter, which makes sense considering the app belongs to our boy Jack from earlier. Now Jack has recently been sucking the Musk teat on Twitter.com, but don't let that concern you. he apparently has almost no influence on the app. Matter of fact, rumor has it he's upset that most of the user base is anti-AI, anti-crypto people. Speaking of the people who use this app, no joke, it's almost mainly furries. Okay, maybe not mainly, but there's a good portion of us on there. We're also reaching a point where there's more than enough codes going around, so be sure to ask around or just keep an eye out for one. Another dub for Bluesky is the lack of ads and corporations. Now, of course, the no ads thing will more than likely change when the app goes public, but for now it's bliss. And when it does open up to ads, I'm almost certain that it'll be actual ads and brands, not cryptocurrency or shitty mobile game ads that don't even show the content of the game. Oh, and NSFW is allowed, and boy is it prominent. There's a thing called Fat Hog Friday, and you can guess what that's about. Rest assured though, if that's not your cup of tea, there's content filters where you can opt out of seeing NSFW content. They also recently just added the ability to self-filter your content, but if you forget to, the app is pretty good at picking up if something is NSFW and applying the filter for you. There's also lists. You can have different feeds curated to different interests that you can switch between fairly easily. All of that being said, the other glaring negative of Bluesky other than the codes is that you just can't post videos. It's likely temporary and they'll change that in the future, but like, that seems like a really important thing to include. There's already been a few times I've wanted to share or post a video to the app and I just can't, and that's kind of rough. That being said, I'm almost certain that that'll change soon, as well as the codes no longer being necessary. Once those two things are changed, Bluesky will be a real competitor for Twitter. Man, as much as we joke about and celebrate Twitter continually blowing up in Musk's face, it's really sad to see such an important app go. I met many amazing friends through Twitter and made many new connections with people I might not have ever known about. Twitter was also the first space I felt comfortable exploring the more adult side of the furry community, and learning a lot about myself and my interests through exploring as Rascal and talking with people with similar likes. And now that's just gone, or going away. And it sucks. While we have these apps to try and take Twitter's place on the throne, none of them are the same as how Twitter was. Now this is likely due to rights Twitter has, as I'm almost certain you can't just recreate Twitter as an exact copy, so they do have to make slight differences in the app, but man, some of these differences just kind of blow. Mastodon's lack of a central hub, instead opting for small instances, Threads not having a following tab, and Bluesky not allowing videos. They've all got their cons of very important things that exist on Twitter. That being said, unfortunately Twitter as we knew it is gone. The app is going to end up going a similar route to iFunny, where the app just keeps getting more and more comfortable for alt-right bigots, and will no longer be a space for people of all walks of life. It's ironic that Musk said he was concerned about Twitter's lack of free speech. Then he turned around and created a space where negativity thrives, and the most terrible toxic people can spread misinformation and get promoted and even get paid for doing it. It's just sickening. So unfortunately, the best thing to do in my opinion is to move to another app. I've only really been using Twitter to promote new videos and content, and will continue to only use the app for that. Twitter as it was is dead to me, and I'm moving any personal posts and content to Bluesky, as I don't feel safe sharing parts of my life on an app where people who quite literally wish for my death get to have their posts be front and center. That being said, we're to the end of the video. Let me know your thoughts on the current state of Twitter, and if you're gonna move to another app, or continue to use it in the face of all the things Musk has done. Anyways, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!